Welcome back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Uh, Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals from multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you join us from LinkedIn, don't forget to like and follow our page to continue seeing content that helps you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today we're discussing mastering money as moms. Today we're joined by Karen Yip Chuck. She is the Group Vice President of Republic Financial Holdings Limited, Vice President of Republic Bank Limited, and the President of the T&T TT Chamber. With over 30 years of experience, she has held many senior management positions with skill sets which include leadership, strategy, banking operations, investments, commercial credits, and board governance. We're also joined by Sonji Pear Chase. She is the team lead and head of the conveyance and property department of the law firm JCS Caribbean Law. She has over 26 years of experience in property law, conveyancing, and I hope that Sonji will correct me on the pronunciation of that because it feels like such a foreign word, and commercial transactions. She has advised major financial institutions on security documentation, commercial leases, and landlord-tenant matters. So these are all very good insight into why we need to ask these questions when it comes to mastering money as moms. So let's welcome our guests today. How are you?
Hi.
Great.
Let's check in with Karen. How are you today? We're going to make sure you're working and we're hearing you well.
Hi, morning, Pauline, Sonji, and everyone who's on air joining us. I'm fine and happy to be here with you all this morning.
Great. You sound amazing. And Sonji, how are you today?
Thanks, Pauline. I'm good. I'm happy to be here and always happy to see Karen. You know, Karen and I work very closely together. So it's good to share a platform with her this morning.
Fantastic. So we have so much to learn, and people think that 60 minutes is a long time. By the way, Sonji, how do you pronounce it? Conveyancing? You need to teach me. Conveyancing. Oh my gosh, sorry.
We have to have a separate session on that.
Okay. Well, you have a lot to teach me, so thank you so much. So when it comes to mastering money as moms, let's start with Karen. You know, what has been your personal relationship with money and how has it evolved with time?
Okay, well, Pauline, I would say that from the very beginning, I have always been a very disciplined saver. And that it would have started off with my very first job, which was here at Republic Bank. And, you know, developing a budget from the very beginning and knowing how much I needed to live on and how much I could have started to save from the beginning. And that's what I did. Put aside some money, you call it paying yourself first, which is money that you put aside towards your savings, and you try to put it somewhere separate that you don't touch it. Because I do really believe in the power of compound interest. And from there, you set your goals and you say like how much you want to save every year, and you work towards it, and you try not to touch that money as much as possible because it does grow.
Thanks for that insight, Karen. And I feel like Sanji has a very interesting perspective because you also have the financial side and the lawyering side. As because in Hollywood, law is usually not necessarily shown in the most positive light. So I want you to shed some light on when it comes to management of money from a personal perspective, and then your background, obviously, with law.
Definitely. And thanks, Pauline. And really, I will start off by saying, you know, that's one of the myths because we look at so much television shows involving lawyers, and there's always the sentiment that lawyers make just huge set of money, that lawyers milk their clients, and as such, we have stashes and stashes of money that we could easily go to. And really, it is a myth. You have to be able to manage your resources well, especially early in your practice. And the reason why Karen is a very successful banker as she is articulated in her introductory remarks. So she started off very prudent, very frugal in terms of her management of money. I would say in the early part of my career, it's not that I wasn't frugal or I wasn't prudent, but because you just came out as an attorney, and then I had the reality of being a single parent very early in my career. So my management of money in the early stages of my career was not as well as it is now. You know, it took a long time for me to make certain adjustments and realized that I had to put certain plans in place if I want to secure my future and that of my son. Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting because I also, I mean, I have a few lawyer friends and I know they spend a lot of time and money on school. So it is definitely a lot of management there from the beginning as you pursue your career.
Yes, yeah. So the education part of becoming an attorney at law, especially if you're funding it out of pocket, as I did, it's very costly. And you end up, as you hear the stories coming out of United States, kids in United States, they finish college and they have these college debts that carry through to them, a long time within their career. It happens to those of us who have to fund our tertiary education uh, out of pocket. And it was my case, at both my undergrad degree, then my postgrad qualifications, which I have quite a few, were all funded out of pocket. So as I said, in the early stages, it required a lot of adjustments on my end to be able to manage my finances in such a way so that I could ensure that I'm well placed to be able to earn a proper standard of living going forward to take care of myself and my family.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that story, Sanji. So we want to have a conversation around leadership, especially, in this space and financial space. So this question's for Karen as a C-suite leader, and a mom. How do you approach financial decision making differently at home versus at work?
I don't think for me it is significantly different because I really do bring a discipline and a detailed approach to whether it is bank decisions in terms of dealing with finances or personally. And even in listening to Sanji just now I don't know when I'm speaking, I only see myself. I can't see y'all. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be because we want to focus on what you have to say.
Oh, okay. So, even Sanji, before you would have gone to law school, you would have had to save to get a down payment, to get the financing or to even start off, even if you had to take a loan for it. So from very early, I wouldn't say, okay, even as a child, we could teach our children how to save and put aside some money. And it's really all the same principles that you're carving out a little bit of something and putting it aside so that it could grow. And if even if that is for investing in your education or towards some other purpose, that discipline has to be there from the very beginning. You talk about the difference between work and at home. Well, if at work I'm so accustomed to spreadsheets, at home I do that as well. I build up my spreadsheet in terms of what my income would be, how do I want to separate my budget into what I need for my daily, monthly expenses, what I want for that little extra, maybe entertainment or something for yourself, and then that little part to save. So in a nutshell, it's the same disciplined approach in all aspects of my life and the kind of planning and the overall approach to it, really.
Okay. I would love to hear some feedback from your kids to hear how they feel about that,
But
having that leadership role in motherhood.
children see a lot, they learn a lot, both from what you teach them and from observation. And my two daughters now, they both live away. They are 23 and 27. And okay, while they are in school, they're really just able to live off the budget that I give them. But as they have started to work, I've, ingrained in them, instilled in them that same sort of discipline. And I am seeing it slowly, at least with the older one. The younger one isn't working as yet, so she doesn't have that extra money. But when they do get that chance, I think they will follow the same principles because they have been exposed to it from very early.
Wow, that's so great for them to have that insight because a lot of people are learning about money from television. So we want to shift the conversation to Sanji. I would like to know if there are dissertations that are presented at home when budgets come out.
No, we don't have that feature in our homestead. But just I want to take up on one point that Karen made in terms of the example you set for your children, and I think the learning or the takeaway for our audience is really fundamental. So I want to zone in on it. Children learn from the environment that they are in. So if you set an environment where children are in tune with financial responsibility, financial prudence, you would you would be very surprised to see later on in their lives, although they don't exhibit it while at home, that later on in their lives they really demonstrate what they have seen, what they have learned at home. And I can speak to that with my son. I also have my 23-year-old son is out in the United States at college. And if I say to him, it's Friday, it's the weekend, maybe you need to go and spoil yourself a little bit. He reminds me, Mom, I'm on a student budget. I can't afford that. Mom, I'm not going to spend any money buying this or that. If I, suggest that he does something to treat himself. And he's always very prudent with his management of money. And it really comes back from that discipline that was set at the home, and seeing how you manage your money and what you put your money into. And most importantly, as Karen would have alluded to, while I made a point of self-finance and education, it really was with the discipline of knowing that you wanted to do better and starting an early process of investing in your future, investing in your education. And children pick up on those things from the home. So I would say we don't have a budget dissertation at home, and to manage that. It's just how you conduct your lifestyle and how you exhibit to those around you to manage your finances properly, because you could be irresponsible, and that irresponsibility is then picked up by those around you, your children, your dependents. Or you could be very responsible in terms of how you manage your finances.
Okay, I'm learning so much today. And since, our guests today both have children over 20, I imagine you look at what society looks like today if you had to raise a child in this environment, which means asking for money for Roblox. What advice would you give to moms watching this today about navigating that conversation? Let's start with Karen.
Okay. Interestingly enough, prior to this program, I did speak to some young mothers to kind of understand from their perspective what it is really like starting off now. And there is a common thread, because I mean, the cost of living now is so much higher than when I would have started off. And for one of the young mothers that I spoke to, they have to spend quite a lot in just their needs, their rent, their transportation, food, and school fees. And there isn't maybe much left over in terms of saving on a regular basis. And I still suggested to her that even if you could carve out $100 for the month, or even 200, to put it aside, um, because without, you might think $100 or $200 a month is like very little, but at the end of the year, you see a bigger lump sum, and at the end of the second year as well. So for the young parents out there, for the young people out there, I really strongly suggest to you to go through your budget, know what is your income coming in and what is the mandatory expenses that you have to face on a monthly basis, and then see if there's a little extra that you could just carve out and put it aside, put it somewhere separate that you can't easily touch. Open an account just for it, and live within your means. Live, yes, you have to treat yourself every now and then, because that's what life is all about. You can't just be entirely sacrificing, but do try to live within your means, and do try to save on a consistent, regular basis, because it will grow. And another thing is, speaking to another one of them, in the bank, we might have something like a bonus or a profit share, and other organizations would have something like that. If any money comes into you that you're not really accustomed to on a regular basis, the fact is you weren't dependent on it, and it wasn't part of your monthly budget. So when it comes in, because you weren't accustomed to it, see what aspect of it you could carve out and put aside as well into your savings, so that over time there is an amount growing that you can have as an emergency fund, that you can tap into for when you need to do bigger spend. That's not just money going out there, but something that you could use for investing in yourself, investing in a home, investing in something that would benefit you in the long term.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. We are going to go on a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to hear some insights from Sanji as well when it comes to mastering money as moms. We'll be right back.
Tired of feeling lost when it comes to your money? Want to make your money work more for you? Then tune in to Straight Off the Bat, brought to you by the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. Every Monday at 8:30 p.m. on TV6, right after the news. We'll give you practical tools and strategies to help you manage your money wisely, from budgeting basics, debt management, to wealth creation. We'll cover it all. No jargon, just straight talk. Join our host, Pauline Joseph, as she speaks to experts across the industry to empower you to take control of your money. Straight Off the Bat, Mondays at 8:30 p.m. on TV6. Brought to you by the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago.
And welcome back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're joining us from YouTube, like Cynthia Joseph, don't forget to like and subscribe to our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. Today, we're covering the topic, Mastering Money as Moms. We're joined by Karen Yip Chuck. She is the Group Vice President of Republic Financial Holdings Limited and Vice President of Republic Bank Limited with over 30 years of experience. We're also joined by Sanji Pesh Chase. She's the team lead and head of the conveyancing and property development of the law firm JCS Caribbean Law. So we'll bring them back in. And just before the break, we were having a discussion around what it's like to be a mom during this time, especially with the evolution of digital media and having access to managing your kids, especially when they're younger, what the expectations are like when it comes to managing money. So we want to go into a little different conversation when it comes to trading off between career growth and family priorities. So we're going to have to go back a little bit, because I know you both mentioned that your kids are off in school and managing sometimes school and work. So if we were to go back as to when you started off, Sanji, what are some of the biggest financial trade-offs you've had to make between career growth and family priorities?
Pauline, I didn't get your question. Could you repeat it for me?
Sure, no worries. So what I was asking, what were some of the biggest financial trade-offs you've had to make between career growth and family priorities?
Oh, got you.
No worries.
Yes, so of course, as I said earlier, I would have had my son very early in my career. As a matter of fact, within 2 years of graduating as an attorney, so I didn't get a chance to build up all those boxes yet that people allude that attorneys have stashed away. So for me, education was always a key part of my makeup. I was very much in tune with wanting to advance myself educationally and study as much as possible, get as much qualifications under my belt. So whilst I was pregnant, actually, I had enrolled to do a Master's of Law degree, and that had to go on hold because of my pregnancy. And then there are other professional development programs that I had planned to do, and I had to postpone them. I was able to come around to do them in the future, but being a mom and being a young mom and a new mom, all of your attention goes towards this child or children, if we have multiple, that you rarely defer anything that you want to invest in yourself. And in my case, luckily, it was a deferral for a period of time that I was able to get back onto track and finish all my professional development programs that allowed me to advance very quickly in my career. But for a lot of young moms, that may not be possible. So you direct all your finances and all your energy in your young children because it's important. And just to take up one of the points that Karen made in terms of, when we speak to younger moms and young women who are looking to become moms, is instilling in them the understanding that children are very expensive. So if you are planning for a family, and we hope that, in most instances it's a plan, and it's not something that happened by VAPS. If you're planning for a family, you understand that it requires a lot of financial sacrifice, sacrifices from yourself, sacrifices probably from your home, deferring vacation, to raise a family, especially when you're very young in your career. And there's one point that I want to emphasize, and it comes out of my practice. When we don't put those financial systems in place for children very early, like especially if we want our children to move forward in tertiary education in terms of setting aside a fund and saving for their education, you would see, well, I have seen it in my professional career, where mature parents have to go and do refinancing on their mortgages. They have to take out third and second loans in order to complete their children's education. And it puts them into a financial strain later on in their life. So imagine you are in your late 40s, you're in your early 50s, and you are now, encumbering yourself even further because you didn't have that nest egg set aside for your children. And you are keen on ensuring that your children have that education that you envision for them. So you are now putting yourself in further financial challenges. So it's one of the things that if our younger audience want to be aware of, is ensuring that we understand all of these components in raising children very early o'clock so that we make sure that we put the right measures and systems in place.
Such an important, a lot of important points, but my biggest takeaway is definitely children are expensive. And I think that is a fact that I will continue to repeat to anyone asking me why I don't have them. So moving on. So thank you for Nikisha for joining us from LinkedIn. A comment said, saving even small amounts builds the muscle to develop the discipline to at least put aside something. And that's such an important factor. And I think she's also referencing to what Karen said earlier. That's a muscle that I only recently gained. So these sessions are important for me to learn as well. So we want to head back to Karen. You mentioned that, Republic Bank was one of your first jobs. Were you a mom when you started at Republic Bank?
No, Pauline. No, Pauline. I wasn't. I had to go back to
Okay.
think in. Well,
sorry for putting you on the spot.
No, I just have to go back. I've been here such a long time. But Pauline, as I said from the beginning, I think you could get from me that I am sort of very structured and very disciplined. So I actually joined the bank straight out of University of the West Indies. I would have planned my life in the sense of that I got married 5 years after working in the bank to somebody who I was already going around with for 10 years by that time. So I met him since I was in high school. We would have been married for 4 years before we had our first daughter. And over that period, we still lived at home with my mother. We had an apartment downstairs, a home. All of that helped us towards managing some of our expenses, not really having an external rent to pay, but more like a contribution to the home. And that period of living by my mother for 5-6 years allowed us to help save towards that nest egg. And therefore, by the time my children came along, which would have been, as I said, 4 or 5 years into our marriage, I was still studying. I was still doing professional programs through the bank that were requirements. I was doing the Heriot-Watt MBA. So to me, I don't think it was so stringently financial trade-offs in the sense of your salary going entirely towards your living expenses. There, by that time, there was an amount that had to save that I had available to save. I think the trade-offs really came in terms of time, management of your time, and being able to work and have that career, being able to come home and do the things as a mom would be required to do, and also studying for the Harriet MBA program. And back then, it would be managing your 24 hours into slots to know when you could find time to save. And maybe there's a parallel because in the same way I managed 24 hours into time slots, I used to manage my income into slots as well. And as I said before, in terms of your needs and what you need to live, the wants in terms of the times that you would treat yourself, whether it's clothing or going out or something, and the savings is a must. And because Pauline, you just mentioned that you're learning so much as we are speaking, one of the things I would like to share and tell the audience who's with us is that read. Read some books that might resonate with you. Back then, for me, I pull this back up. I had read books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And there was another one called The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley. And they both kind of give you encouragement and ideas of how to be disciplined in your saving. And there are the trade-offs, but as I said, the trade-offs are not just financial. They could be financial, time, and so forth. But the whole thing to encapsulate everything is to have a structure, to have a goal, an overall goal, a plan towards it, and adhering strictly to whatever time budget or financial budget you set for yourself.
Thanks so much for the suggestion for the books, Karen. We'll definitely, for those who may have missed it, this live will be on replay across social media once we have ended. So I want to shift to Sanji and ask if you can share a real life moment where a financial decision as a mother significantly impacted your family or career.
A real life situation. I mean, there are many, but I could think of one. I mean, my son in his early stage would have been educated at private schools, at private elementary and primary schools before going off to secondary school. So one example that I could really share that remained with me, and of course I always use it as a bargaining tool with my son, is that I had to give up on something that I really wanted, something that I had been idolizing over for years that I wanted to get for myself. But the moment came where I had to pay his school fees for the private school. And it really was a trade-off, Sanji, you have your school fees to pay for your son, or you can, get this thing that you wanted and had been idolizing for over such a long time. And I forego it for myself, to invest in my son's own education because I saw the benefit of it as a young parent, the importance of it, I should probably say, re-emphasizing the point that children are expensive, the importance of investing in my son's education because I thought it was, key to his own development and to take him where I expected him to be when he's completed his education studies. So that remained with me. And of course, as parents, when we have that carrot and stick measure, we could use that later on to say, by the way, do you remember on such and such occasion what I did for you? I sacrificed something that I really yearned and wanted for many years to ensure that, you remain in school and you got the education that you needed to become the person that you are today,
I must say, when you said hold over his head, I was a bit triggered.
Yes, it is purposefully used and said in such a way. I would say this as well. I always say to my son, my expectation is that when he becomes, this very important person in life and making a lot of money, I expect only to be flying first class and be put up in the most expensive hotels. So that is what I mean by holding it over his head.
No, Sanji, no.
Keeping
I'll
it
take
real, Pauline.
as a cat mom, I kind of contribute to this conversation, so I don't know what it's like to make those sacrifices. So I will continue learning from both our guests, Sonji and Karen. So we'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll further the conversation around mastering money as moms. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're doing so from Facebook, don't forget to subscribe to our page to continue seeing content that'll help you manage your money. Today, we're covering the topic mastering money as moms. We're joined by Karen Yip Chuck. She is the Group Vice President of Republic Financial Holdings Limited, Vice President of Republic Bank Limited, and the President of the TT Chamber. And she has over 30 years of experience, so we have a lot to learn from her today. We're also joined by Sonji Chase. She's the team lead and head of the conveyancing at Property Department of the law firm JCS Caribbean. So we're gonna bring our guests back in, and I just want to shout out to Gail. I think that investing can be engaged in also as a recurring monthly withdrawal, so one does not have to think about it even into retirement. This can be done. So anyone has anything to chime into that comment? Because investing is such a hard conversation to have if you've not had that baseline and that mom to teach you that this is important.
Yeah, Pauline, I would say Gail is on the point very, very early in your career. And I think, not I think, Karen definitely alluded to that. You have to have that diligence. So if you set up a standing order on your account, which I did, as soon as I graduated from law school, you set up a standing order on your account, even if it's the smallest amount, $100 or $200, you forget that it's even there. It's not a commitment that you're making, that you voluntarily invested in something, and then you are so surprised after a couple of years that you have accumulated this nest egg. And it worked for me because, of course, when I needed funds for other professional development programs, I realized, okay, I'd accumulated so much money without even realizing that it was happening. So for young moms or young adults who are starting off as professionals, I would strongly advise the very first thing you do when you get your job is to put a standing order on your account and set aside, if it's just a couple $100 a month, to go into some investment account that you don't touch, you don't even remember that it's there. And then before you know it, you have accumulated a lovely nest egg that can help you out in the future. I'll give way to Karen.
Well, before we go to that, I want to head up because for some reason we've just opened the floodgates for comments. So I want to address as soon as possible because everyone thinks that these women are such an inspiration. So we want to tap in to that 30 years of experience, Karen, and ask this question from Cassandra on Facebook. I raised 4 kids as a housewife. 2 of them went to school abroad. My husband was the one in control of all financial and bills. And I have no savings now that he's retired. I have no idea what to do. Do you have any advice for Cassandra, Karen?
Yes. Okay, so Cassandra, as a housewife, it sounds as if you should have at least been handling some aspect of the household budget, unless your husband paid all the bills back then. But okay, you asked about your question today. So today, as a retiree, he is receiving a pension. Hopefully, you have some access to that money in the sense of when it comes in, if it is supporting you all both now and the family, that whether he still manages the account or ideally it's a joint account that your name is on as well, in the event anything happened to him, that you all could sit down and still discuss from it what do you carve out in terms of your expenses, and you should have been getting some amount being paid to yourself, because a housewife is the biggest job of all, running the household, the family, and the children. but you do need to get some sort of income coming into you, whether it is from your husband's pension or something that you can do for yourself. Um, some sort of self-employment, some sort of catering, something that you need to get. You could only save if money is coming in, right? So the money first has to come in through whatever means, and then from that you could carve out and a portion that you could put aside towards saving. And I do want to just go back to what Gail had said before. It all really depends on the individual's discipline. So yes, maybe the easiest way for most people is to set up a standing order so that the money comes out and you never see it and it goes towards saving. But if you are an individual that is structured and disciplined, then you for yourself could know that when you do get money coming in, put aside 10-20% of it, again, somewhere that you will not touch on a daily basis. Don't leave it easily accessible, set up a separate account for it so that it can stay and grow.
Thank you for the advice, Karen. Sanjay, I saw you shaking your head. You wanted to add something?
Well, really, it's just an affirmation of Cassandra's story. I mean, in my legal practice, I see it so much. I mean, in Cassandra's case, her husband is still alive. Incidents that come to me, the husband passed, you've been the housewife all of your working life, really, and there is nothing that you have in place to provide you with that cushioning. So it is an unfortunate reality that happens, and hopefully the younger ones listening would know that you really need, as a woman, to have some financial independency. I kind of try to preach that to youngsters that I speak to, especially the female ones, that you need to have that financial dependency, even in a communal relationship, whether it's with your spouse or your partner. For Cassandra, I mean, just taking it on what Karen said, is really getting where that income would come. And if it's not coming from part of what your husband is giving you to run the household, is, having some really ingenious ways of getting income. When I was growing up, I remember my elderly relatives being part. At that time, I didn't know what it was. Now I understand it to be the susu. So they would get this money accumulated from the other housewives in the community, and use it for a purpose, investment, or the acquisition of something that you think about. So there are ways that you can get to that financial independence, and I would want to re-emphasize with our female audience the need or the priority of having financial independence. Yes, it's good to have the comfort of a home and the comfort of a husband who takes care of you, pays all the bills. But sometimes the reality is that if something happens to that partner, you're really just left out in the cold. So it's putting some structure, as small as it could be, to have some financial independence that you have carved away for yourself, that you can manage and say, this is my little nest egg that I have been working towards building.
Thank you so much for that, Sanjay. I hope, Cassandra, that you can take away from this advice and move forward with investing in yourself. So we're going to head over. I have questions, but unfortunately, it's not as important as the ones in the comment section. So we're going to head over to Facebook, and Nikita wants to know, how old were you when you started saving for the nest egg? So we're going to start with Karen.
As I said before, from my very first job, I started to work at the age of 22. That's when I graduated from university, and whatever my salary was back then, I decided 50% to save. Now, I said the normal target might be like about 20%, but I was living at home, and I didn't have all the extra external expenses, so I was able to put that aside. Over the years, starting with that figure for me, over the years, if I got a salary increase or some extra money coming in, because I was accustomed to living on 50%, anything extra that I got, I had put it to savings until I ever needed to tap into that saving, like for a car, for our first home. So I would say from the very beginning, and that's like talking about your first salary. But there is an element as a child that my mom used to work in the bank. So my mom would have opened bank accounts for us, and from the little allowance that we got, we were encouraged to save. I wouldn't count that as really towards the nest egg, because as a child, you probably used that out at some point in time. But what that did was my mom exposing us to saving from very early gave us that discipline about the importance of saving, the real significance of compound interest, just leaving that money there, and over time, as it builds and the interest that it earns, eventually the interest contribution is also very significant, and it grows. And today, people listening are not just limited to savings accounts. You have money market, you have investing in shares, whether locally or abroad on different platforms. Um, to the to the person who came in earlier, who was the housewife, you could also look at like insurance plans or endowment plans with your different financial institutions. And that's all, again, the principle of just putting aside some amount, whether it's a cover the premium or a regular monthly contribution. And there is a commitment that it grows, or it covers, you know, 100,000 with a 4% guaranteed return, as the case may be. So you could look into those plans. You could talk to whoever's your bank or come into any of the financial institutions and get some advice from any of the providers.
Thank you so much, Karen. Sandra, you would like to add to that when you started your nest egg?
Just like Karen, I mean, right out of law school. So when I graduated from law school, my very first job, I did just what caller, I mean, LinkedIn subscriber indicated. I set up that standing order on an account on my savings account, which was open at UWI Republic Bank, and all of us who passed through there would have had that UWI Republic Bank account, and transferred it out of that account into another account where I didn't have any immediate access to. So the advice really for our audience is as soon as you can. You know, when you are studying, sometimes you think it's impossible, but it is possible. I mean, the importance of education is key, which is Karen's takeaway point. Similarly, I would have instilled in my sons when he was in primary school the importance of opening a savings account. I opened the trust account, the Right Start account, I think, at Republic Bank for him when he was like about 5 years old. And you're not just educating our children as to the importance of having that savings. So even when he went off to college in the United States, it was the same concept. You know, this is your allowance for school and meals, but make sure that you open a separate an account that you could put part of it into for savings. So although you're not earning an income, you are receiving money, and you're able to take out part of that and set aside to savings. So ideally, if you can, before you actually become gainfully employed, set up that nest egg, then do so as soon as possible. If not, then as soon as you get that job, as soon as you become employed from your studies, your tertiary education studies, I say set it up and don't even look at it. Just leave it untouched. And then you become so overwhelmed when you realize what a lovely nest egg that you have built over time.
Great advice, and it's definitely a muscle memory that we all have to build. You know, better late than never. So we're gonna head back to the comments, and this one is to Karen. Leela Singh wants to know, as a new employee at a local bank, what are some pieces of advice you can share on career mobility and advancement within the local banking scene with respect to women age 34, which is very specific, Leela. Plus do's and don'ts money wise.
Okay, so wherever somebody's working, doesn't necessarily have to be in the bank. I think that you really do need to stand out in the sense of, you know, give it your all in terms of the job that you are doing, but don't just limit yourself to your current job. Learn as Try to master what you have to do in terms of what the requirements are, but try to learn as much as you can in terms of other jobs and the other people around you as well, so that you, with the additional knowledge that you gain in terms of the other jobs, you kind of make yourself ready for that next opportunity, another job that will open up. It wouldn't just be that you know the requirements of job A, but you know parts of job B and C and so forth, so that you put yourself more marketable. Because remember, whatever opportunity opens, it's not just opening for you. You're competing against amongst other people who are also maybe goal oriented and want a promotion and want to move up. So, what we look for as leaders in the organization, first of all, would be somebody's attitude and disposition to work, that they are positive, that they doing a great job in terms of quality, delivery, um, time management, that they are team player, that they working well with others, and that they even show leadership abilities. Because leadership is not a position, and leadership is not a title. Leadership, everybody's a leader in some way, and it's how you show how you interacting with others, how you're serving your customers, how you willing to do more than just what is required of you, actually all culminates in preparing you for the next position, because those are the things that we look at. And the question has disappeared, so I can't recall what was the latter part of the question. Pauline,
I believe
the do's and
the
don'ts.
do's and don'ts money wise.
Well, as I've been trying to reiterate all the time, the do with respect to money is respecting money. I'll give you even some little things there. As women, don't put your purse on the floor wherever you are, because they always say that's being disrespectful. Put your purse on a chair, on a table. That's what is holding your funds, your future. Um, do try to save, and the only way you can save, as I said before, is understand your budget. Understand what you really need to get by on a day-to-day basis and to live. Maybe keep a little extra for, to treat yourself, but do put aside something to save. The don'ts with respect to money, don't spend it all on just money that will just go out, that you don't ever get back. If money is going out because you're putting some in a savings account, or you're putting towards an endowment plan, or insurance, or annuity, or some kind of savings, that is money that you're carving out, but it's not going out as a sunk cost and will never come back in. That is actually going to saving. And another thing with don't get accustomed to just spending everything paycheck to paycheck. Manage your debt, manage your expenses. If you all have credit cards, manage your credit card. I know that we as the banks require you to just pay the minimum amount towards your balance. But ideally, if you could pay off your credit card or the majority of it, try to reduce your debt. Try not to build up unnecessary debt, especially not on luxuries. When you have to build up a debt, let it be on something that is an investment towards a home, or towards something that in turn could generate some income for you.
Well, thank you so much for that, Karen. And thank you so much to Leela for giving us that question. We're going to go on a quick break, and we have less than 10 minutes, but we have one or two more questions to answer with our guests, Sandra and Karen. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Thank you for joining us today. If you're doing so from YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our page to continue seeing content that'll help you manage your money. Today, we're covering the topic Mastering Money as Moms. We're joined by Karen Yip Chuck. She is the Group Vice President of Republic Financial Holdings Limited, Vice President of Republic Bank Limited, and the President of the TT Chamber. We're also joined by Sanji Pear-Chase. She is the Team Lead and Head of the Conveyancing and Property Department of the law firm JCS Caribbean Law. So we have covered quite a lot here in this session, and we have had a lot of questions in the comment section, but I know that a lot of people will be watching this and have to navigate a financial setback. So we will start with Sanji. Have you ever faced a financial setback or uncertainty as a mom? And how did you navigate it?
Yes, certainly. I think most of us, if not all of us, do have financial setbacks. And this became public knowledge because I made it public knowledge when I was doing a feature for one of the media on International Women's Day. Not to early in my career, or not too long after getting into my first job, I actually lost that job. And when I lost the job, I actually was pregnant at the time. And it presented a definite blow, not just to my mental composition in terms of what it is my career was presenting at the time, but it presented a serious financial challenge because I know I was going to have this young baby soon, and I was worried whether I'll be able to cope financially, mentally, all the leads that you could think about. And if I have to put a marker on what would have been the greatest setback for me, it would have been that experience. Now, I could have approached it in many different ways. I did decide to take a break from my legal career. But during that break, what I did is I retooled myself. I went on and I did further studies. I, tried to get professional development courses on the way so that I was able to be more marketable in a different aspect. And which was the point Karen was making to the young lady who asked about advancement in a career in banking. You don't limit yourself to just one area, one field, one study. You have to be open-minded to many different opportunities. And that to me was my saving grace. I really was very open-minded to different opportunities. And I think that open-mindedness allowed me to deal with what I would have called, referred to at the time as what I reference as my greatest setback. And doing that landed me a better job, landed me in a different career path, that one that I had envisioned, and it built a relationship with the TT Chamber that I didn't expect. And you know how that relationship culminated in me becoming the president eventually. None of that I would have foreseen or envisioned, in that early days of that setback. So we never know what our plans will be in the long run, but we can put the building blocks in place to allow us to deal with setbacks. And we have to be realistic. We will have setbacks. We will have days when things don't go according to plan, where we believe that it's just not working out right. But having the support systems in place will help you to deal with those travesties if they befall you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And speaking of support system, Karen, I wanted to find out because you did mention when you started off having the access to your family's home. How important do you think having that support system has been for you, and how has it been helping you when you manage both money and motherhood?
Okay, well, a support system is critical to everyone, and especially for women who have to go through balancing career, family, and all the other aspects of life. And that support system is really the family and friends that you have around you that could help you just maneuver your day to day life. And especially when you do have some unexpected situation or setback, whether it is financial or otherwise, career wise, emotional wise, whatever it may be, you do need that trusted group of people that you could go to and unburden and get help. That help could be during your career, help with your children, if when you have to work late. That support could be, in my instance, as I had mentioned earlier, living at home for a period of time that I could have saved. Even just meaningful conversations with your peers and others who you could hear from their own experiences what they're doing. I mean, most young people now, many people have side hustles, so it's not just the job that they have, but something on the side that people are doing. That usually it might be hobby related, something that they love. If it's baking, catering, gardening, sewing, nail techs, all these different things. You're so not limited by traditional careers and office type jobs that are just 8 to 4 anymore. And even if you are in a job like that, nothing stops you on the side from doing extra to earn yourself some money. And maybe you will get those ideas from other women, from other support groups, So I would say that support is critical, and not just like one support group. It's different people in your life that contribute by listening to their experiences. So for me, I have older friends who I learned a lot from because they were married, they were in motherhood before I started off. So I learned from them and were able to apply those things to my own situation when I became a mother. At my age now, I have younger friends that might encourage me to go out and balance off that side of life that is not just all about work, and of course your family as support. So don't take it for granted. You always say that the culmination of your life and where you end up really wasn't only by yourself, but really by the village of people who supported you, and that village is your support group and consists of people in all different sectors at home, in the business community, socially, professionally, um, many aspects, and I encourage it. And therefore, an aspect of getting there is networking and building relationships. At the end of the day, everything is about relationships.
So true. So true. Great advice, Karen. So we're closing off in a little bit. There are quite a few comments. So I think, ladies, if you have the time and you could check out the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago Facebook pages, there are some questions there. So I wanted to close off. Let's start with Chonji. What advice would you give to other women, especially young mothers, who are striving to build a successful career while maintaining financial stability?
Thanks, Pauline. I probably will start where Karen ended, understanding the importance of that support network. That for me was my greatest asset as a young mom. And it really assisted me to cope mentally. If you're a professional, you really put all of your energies in doing the best that you can at your job, which really required probably working very long hours. And I worked very, very long hours. That took away from the time that I should have been spending with my son. My son was in competitive swimming, so there's pool drop-off, pool pickup, and having a support network in place really assisted me in managing mentally. When we talk about as moms managing money, we don't realize that there's a mental component to it. In essence, that we have to ensure that we are in a good place as a mom to be able to function properly. And if we are not in a good place, if we don't have that support to address our physical, mental, and spiritual being, we really would not be able to manage our life. We would not be able to manage our children. We would not be able to manage our money. And your support network is key to that. Whether it's the other moms who come in my case, the other moms who come in, whether it's your family, friends, don't discount it. Karen is so correct. It takes a village. We used to say that younger. I mean, I'm in that age bracket where I know that saying. It takes a village to raise a child. It is absolutely true. It is not singular. It's not just you and your partner, you and your spouse. It really is an entire village to provide you with that support network to keep you whole, mentally, spiritually, and physically whole, so that you can manage yourself, manage your home, manage your money, and manage your children effectively.
Thank you so much, Sanji. And on that note, we want to thank our guests today, Karen Yip Chuck and Sanji Chase, for joining us today and sharing insight into mastering money as moms. Sign up to be notified about our next live show via the comment section across social media. And as always, be sure to like and follow our pages so you don't miss a single live show. Thanks again for joining us today and looking forward to seeing you for the next show. Bye.